Well, it's a perfect morning out here at Track Rock Gap in North Georgia. So I'm here with my wife, Lauren, and I'm taking her to a petroglyph site that dates from the Woodland period. They think sometime around roughly the year 0 until 1400 AD. With a lot of these prehistoric American sites, they don't really have a great idea of just how ancient they are. Now, all of these sites are linked to the Cherokee, but very loosely. They're linked to the Cherokee because the Cherokee were the most predominant culture in this area during the contact period. But all throughout North America, in the Americas in general, there were tribes coming and going all over the place. So I'm gonna try to show you down here what I feel like looks a little bit like a quarry. And I was trying to show it from my point of view, but I don't think I can really get it across. You see this is clearly an indention in the ground. And I see something like this and I wonder, when you're in Mexico or in Latin America and you see something like this, it's almost every time it's either going to be a looter's trench or it's going to be a quarry site if it's in the bedrock. But the thing is that the woodland cultures, as far as I know, aren't really quarrying stone at the same level as Central American cultures and South American cultures. So something like this might be a quarry site, but maybe it's even the remnants of an old gold mine of some kind, or maybe it's even some giant tree that's fallen and it's pulled up the ground around it. This is either the second or third time that I've been out to Track Rock. And the other times that I was here, I spent some time looking around at large boulders that I thought at least look like they could have other petroglyphs on them that aren't officially marked. So I'm thinking we're gonna do a little bit of that today and see what we can't find. So we're walking up this trail and I look off to the right and I see something about right up here that looks about like something that maybe ancient Native Americans would have seen and thought, this makes a pretty good canvas for a petroglyph site. So we shall see. Wow, look at that. I've seen many sites like this throughout this northern Georgia, western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee area, and I've found glyphs before, and something like this is almost always the best possibility for finding petroglyphs. The problem is that a lot of this is soft soapstone, and soapstone erodes pretty easily. So over the course of several thousand years, any glyphs that were on here could easily have eroded away. So what I'm going to do is, a lot of times when you're looking at petroglyph sites, especially during the day, it's really, your eyes cannot pick up the images that will be in the stones. But taking photos of it, for whatever reason, the way your phone compresses the image, it becomes much easier to be able to make out images in the stone. So what we're gonna do is take some photos of these stones. Like, this may not come out. This right here, almost, it looks like it's a marking. I'm guessing that it's probably modern, but just by the style of it and the way it looks a lot more like graffiti than anything else, or vandalism, I should say. But I do see some marks on it that look rather ancient, like this solid line right here. But I'm not sure. So we're gonna go around and take some photos of these stones and see what shows up later on. Now, another idea would be coming at night and getting like a flashlight and shining it along the side, and you can see the shadows that are cast down it, but we don't have the time for that this weekend. And I'll put some of these photos in the video as well. But there's some really flat areas on the back of these stones that certainly look like something could have been on them. And as you can tell, I'm much more brazen in North America above the Rio Grande, because the snakes out in this area can pose a threat, but it's certainly not a fertile ant. Yeah, there's all kinds of markings on the back of this, or at least it looks like it. Interesting. All right, well, we'll keep going. Now, the whole point of today's video is documenting some of these prehistoric petroglyph sites that are commonly attributed to the Cherokee, and making an argument that, you know, North American history, prehistory, is much deeper, much more nuanced, and much more complex than is commonly thought. You go to a lot of these sites and it's just labeled the Cherokee have done this, but I really think that that's an oversimplification. The Cherokee are an Iroquoian tribe, which means that they're related to tribes that are up and around the Northeast. And even the Cherokee legends say that they came from these snowy mountains in faraway places. So my thought is, and other archaeologists think this as well, is that this area of the country, really, as well as every other area of the country, was inhabited by many different cultures over the course of 10,000 years or more, that achieved many things, made many spiderweb, made many different pieces of art, and that the Cherokee simply inhabited this land that had already been inhabited for thousands of years prior, and left these petroglyph sites behind. So you can see here, there's another big stone. So a lot of usable large stones around here. Now my curiosity is, I wonder if these woodland people saw large stones with flat surfaces, or if they made the surfaces flat to carve on them. The last time I was here, I really wasn't too well read up on these cultures. Now I'm a little bit more well read. So it's going to be interesting to come back and view this for a second or third time. You can see the indentation here. It certainly looks like it might not be natural. Again, with a lot of this soapstone and this soft stone, it could have been carved 2,000 years ago, and only now, looking at it, it's just eroded away so heavily that it's hard to tell. But this certainly looks like it could be worked. You can almost see strikes there. It's fascinating. Here are some other flat stones, and this even has that bowl mark that other stone that I was just showing does. That is interesting. There have to be so many uses of these stones and purposes for which they were carved that are just basically exist in an alternate universe from us today. One of the things I think about sitting out here in the woods is, it's kind of a peaceful thought that there were so many people who lived here before me and enjoyed these beautiful mornings and these walks through the woods. It's fascinating kind of standing in somebody's footprints that I know was here thousands of years ago. Something about that is just endlessly fascinating to me and kind of calming in some way. But the petroglyphs should actually be somewhere down here through this thicket. Lauren was saying a moment ago she felt like she was in the jungle. Now she's really gonna feel like it. You ready to walk through that?
I think I'll just stay up here.
No, you're gonna have to come with me. You'll be all right. Just watch out for snakes.
No.
We'll be fine. Don't worry about it. If one of us gets bit, it'll probably be me. Or I'll make the snake mad and then it'll bite you. I would be close to me though. Come on. See, it's not too bad. And there's a road right there. Lauren was saying she feels like she's in the jungle. Oh, girls. Aha, look at that. Look at that. How do you feel after making it through that?
Ready to go back to the cabin and read my book.
Yeah, well, it'll be all right. So check that out. See that? So I look at stuff like this and I wonder what this could be. And the problem is we know much less about the Woodlands cultures than we do really anybody else, unfortunately. In Latin America, I would say something like this would be, maybe a observatory pool or an astronomical pool where this would fill up with water and you could study the stars. But unfortunately, right here it's at an angle, so I don't think that it's an observatory pool. So over here is where we have a little bit of a tourist setup that kind of explains the glyphs, at least to the best of their ability. Now, the veracity of some of these explanations I can't really vouch for. Sometimes they're accurate, impressively accurate, and sometimes they're abhorrently wrong.
Oh, that's cool.
But you see these semi-flat surfaces on these stones. I wonder if the Woodlands cultures flatten these stones out, or if they find stones that are flattened like this. I would need to do a bit of research on that. Here's another stone. Some of you creative minds can probably tell me what exactly this looks like. I'm sure one of the explanations is that this is something for fertility or something like that. You can see another one down there. Lauren, what do you think that looks like right there?
To me, it looks like an alien egg.
An alien egg?
Yes.
Certainly probably has something to do with an egg.
In my very professional opinion.
Yeah. Well, your guess is as good as anyone else's.
But then again, actually, is it a bird with that's the beak and then the head and the body? Do you see what I see? The line at the top, the vertical line.
Oh yeah, I do see that, but most people who watch this channel are male, so I doubt that's what they're seeing.
To each their own.
See here, this is what I'm talking about. This is like where the stone is cut off on the bottom. And I wonder, is this intentionally done by the Woodlands people, or did they just find stones that were like this? I find this fascinating. From my limited understanding of geology, this certainly looks like they found these stones here, although this stone here is actually laying. This large flat stone is actually laying there. Look at that. That is interesting. So, it makes me wonder if these are quarried and then brought over here from that quarry site we found over yonder. I don't know if that's in any official literature, but that's certainly my theory right now. So my working pet theory is that these stones, some of which could have been quarried from somewhere up on the mountain where we saw those large stones and then brought down here, because as I start looking around, I'm realizing that, and I'll put photos in, that most of these are actually just laying here. So they don't look like they're actual stones that are in the ground. So I'm looking at this stone right here, and it certainly looks at first glance like it's just laying here. It's not actually in the ground. Yeah, this stone was moved here. I got it. Oh, that's a lot of spiders there. But yeah, this stone is just laying here. It's leaned up against a rock underneath it. That's fascinating. So what it makes me wonder is if these really aren't being moved from somewhere over here. Like this is some kind of important ceremonial ritual site. But the other thing it makes you wonder is there's a road right here. So probably, maybe, this is an ancient Woodlands road, or Woodlands people road, that then the Cherokee eventually adopted, and then the settlers adopted as well. So there's probably, well, definitely, all kinds of woodland sites that are just buried underneath modern day construction. But this is fascinating. Coming to these Native American sites never fails to give me that sense of wonder and awe of this distant place long ago that people used to live, and just imagining what their lives would have been like, the secrets and the insights of our natural world that they would have undoubtedly been aware of that we're so calloused to and cut off from today. I think those are the things, like this esoteric understanding of the ancient world, these glimpses that tell us more about who we are, more about who our species is, that can be derived from people who lived so in tune with their natural world. Now, living in tune with your natural world doesn't mean that you were living in some kind of ancient utopia or something like that. The natural world is very aggressive and violent. You know, look at lions and other big cats. It's the natural world is a violent place. So that said, I just find the Native American world to be so intrinsically, deeply fascinating. Look at these. This is like a canvas here. You get these smooth stones. Now these, I don't know if they're moved or not. Oh yeah, check that out, Lauren.
That's like a mushroom.
That's worked for sure. Does it look like a mushroom? Look at this. So you got these holes in it. I'll take photos because they'll show up better. Fascinating. Yeah, these are all definitely worked. I'm gonna check out a couple of these up here too. Let me know in the comments section if you guys see anything I don't see. Now see that stone? Something like this makes me wonder if that's just laying there. Could some of these have been moved here? That's a really big stone. Now look at this flat one. Now tell me that doesn't look like something you'd see some kind of glyph on. Can't tell if it's worked or not. Wow. Now this one looks like it's just sit up. Like they grabbed it and set it up. Now oftentimes modern people make the mistake of going underneath the spider web. Modern people make the mistake of looking at Native American tribes as being naive or primitive or dare I say unintelligent, or at least less intelligent than the European. But that's not the case. There were people in the ancient American world who were born that were more intelligent than Einstein. I think I've said this sometime recently, maybe it was in the Nazca video, that it's very possible that the most intelligent person to ever live was a Native American. So you see things like this, and they look like they're all jumbled together, like it's just imagery that's carved into stone. Maybe it's some just artistic expression or children just playing around on the stones. But with some of these things that seem to be like ceremonial centers, but sometimes I think that they could even be something more akin to like an institution, like an academic, a place of learning. There is a method to the madness here. And these were not stupid people. These were incredibly intelligent people trying to understand and interact with their natural world. And the method to the madness is just lost to us today. Well, so we're here at Judaculla Rock. The official understanding of Judaculla is that it was made by the Cherokee, except the Cherokee stories say that the giant Judaculla is the one responsible for laying the stone, or the lore is that it either marks the place that Judaculla existed, or there's all kinds of stories. There's like so many things throughout the Native American world, you have a handful of stories and legends that get thrown around, but the unanimous thing is that the giant known as Judaculla is responsible for this stone. And something that I get from this is not necessarily that giants existed, although that's pretty, a lot of people believe that in North America, and there's a lot of weird things that happen with the Smithsonian, but more so that there was a culture that existed prior to the Cherokee. Now, I'm not talking about Atlantis or pre-Diluvian ancient civilization necessarily. I just mean that the Cherokee probably arrived in this area sometime around, in these Appalachian mountains, sometime around 1000 BC, and maybe a little bit later, certainly later than that. And that before that, for thousands of years, there were other cultures that existed in these same lands and also achieved things that can still be seen in the modern day. So just because the Cherokee was the last culture here during the contact period does not mean that they achieved everything that we can find in this land. I believe Judaculla Rock has been watched over by a family called the Parkers since the early 1900s. They've only actually known about Judaculla for around a century, I think, which is pretty standard for a lot of Native American sites. Only within maybe the last 100 to 200 years have a lot of discoveries been made. The archaeology in North America is basically still in its infant phase. It really, in some ways, is still in its infancy. And so as you can see, Judaculla Rock is absolutely gigantic when you get it into perspective. And so there's an innumerable amount of petroglyphs on this stone here. And there's so many different interpretations as to what these all mean. So here you have what looks like human or maybe tree figures, and
hey! You're supposed to stay on the reviewing stand.
Okay, I'm not on it. All right, I'm sorry.
What?
I said I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I was thinking about, so when he yelled at me, I told him, I said, because technically there's nothing here that says that you can't walk around the stone. You just can't climb on it, which is a given. And so I turned around and I was like, hey, I wasn't even touching the stone. I was explaining it for a video. And he's like, every explanation I hear when somebody gets in trouble, it starts with I. And he's like, but it's not about I, it's about the stone. Or he said something like that, which I think is actually a decent point. And then he said something like, something about, I've seen this thing disappear before my eyes for 40 years, which is a tragedy, because people come here, They climb all over the stone, they vandalize the stone. There's so many sites throughout North Carolina and throughout all of the US where, you know, people put their own like insignificant existence over the existence of an archaeological site that's been around for, in some cases, thousands of years or well over 1,000 years, and then permanently vandalize it and ruin it for all of humanity going forward. So yeah, but coming to sites like this, always my intent is to show that, you know, the romance and the wonder and the mystery of places like this, and why they should be studied and why they should be preserved, and why the viewing platform and everything that they built here and maintenance is very nice, but I'd like to see places like this have even nicer upkeep and even more study done. So for our last stop of the day, I'm bringing us to a waterfall that I took some of my buddies to about a week and a half ago. And we were here, my friend John actually jumped down right about down there and said that he saw some stones that looked like they had markings on them. And I thought, surely, I don't know about that. And but I decided to humor him. I jumped down there, and sure enough, there is a large flattened stone that has markings on it that, if they aren't ancient, left over from the Woodlands culture, they're still something artificial. So we waited till later in the day. Again, this is the land of the noonday sun. So what that means in Cherokee, noonday is the only time of day when the sun actually shines into this valley. And so I waited until a little bit to the afternoon, the sun set behind the mountains, so we can get a much more clear picture of this stone. The last time we were here, it was probably midday, the sun was out, and it was shining directly on the stone, and it kind of prevents you from being able to make out any of the markings. So I'm gonna head down there. Okay, so here is this massive, strange, flat stone. When I was looking at it in person, it certainly looked like there were unnatural carvings carved into the stone. And so I was hoping that by taking a photo of it, I would be able to make out more clearly if there were any images carved into the stone. And there are some small parts of it that look like they may be very heavily eroded petroglyphs, but I just really can't tell. Also, look at the square angle with which this massive stone has been cut. It's very strange, and there were others in the area that were pretty similar to this. So this is something I'm going to have to do more research on, but if anybody watching the video has any other insights, please leave them in the comment section below. Anyway, this realm of the country is just endlessly fascinating. As soon as you pull down some of these roads into the backwoods, you really get a sense for the depth and just this deep mystery of what this part of the country held, what secrets it still holds, what is buried underneath the soil and washed away beneath the dams that have certainly destroyed so many of the ancient Cherokee and pre-Cherokee cities and villages and towns that used to exist for millennia before Europeans ever arrived in this area. I love Western North Carolina, North Georgia, East Tennessee, Western West Virginia. It's just an endlessly fascinating place, and I hope to spend more time out here now that I've moved up here to North Carolina and explore so much of this land, because there's so much left to discover and so little archaeological work that's being done to uncover the secrets of these lands. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Luke Caverns, and if you'd like more videos on the history and mysteries of the ancient world all around the world, well, please like and subscribe for more.